That's Pondering. Today we're reading out of this Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now that was funny. They're just feel-good stories, and they get interesting too, and they give you something to think about. This one is This Is How We Do It. I have always felt that laughter in the face of reality is probably the finest sound there is, and will last until the day when the game is called on account of darkness. That was by Linda Ellerby. It started with a clumsy fall on an uneven sidewalk. I was mystified as to how I didn't auto-correct myself, like I've done so many times before. If I caught my foot on something, it would lead me using a quick step to regain balance, or an athletic roll to the ground, which usually turned into a comedy routine while I stealthily maneuvered to my feet and finished it up by raising my hands in the air and shouting, "I'm okay," or "Nailed it." I have this problem myself. I fall down a lot, and sometimes it's comical, sometimes it's not. But the funniest one, I think, was we were walking out of McDonald's, and I was smoking at that time. I had my cigarette in my left hand and my drink in my right hand, and there again, uneven pavement. Caught my toe. I did a somersault and landed on my fanny. Never dropped my drink or my cigarette. My daughter just laughed, and we just had the best laugh over that. It's just silly things like that. You have to really look for the fun in it. And he goes on, embarrassment was my first thought, but that was replaced with a puzzlement as I was helped up by my wife, Connie. Isn't that the first thing you do? You look around to see if anybody's looking. Anybody saw you go down? Weeks passed before another peculiar incident gave me a warning. As I carried out a collection of leftover pizza slices from one of our favorite eateries, the box began to shake. I switched the box to my right side in order to look at my quivering left hand. I hid the misbehaving hand in my jacket pocket as I quickened my pace to catch up with my fast-walking wife. My gait was off. It's normally stride. I would hear my trailing toes dragging across the sidewalk. My sporadic shuffling feet and hand tremors continued for many months, but I refused to acknowledge them. A few years before, the boredom of becoming suburban empty nesters became a call for change. Connie and I boldly flipped the switch to embrace urban life in downtown Cincinnati. Everything we enjoyed doing together was merely steps away. Our new adventure didn't need to be slowed down because I was starting to age. Spring opened with an unusually warm March, prompting our favorite parks, restaurants, and bars to open windows, gates, and outside tables to trigger what had become our favorite pastime, roaming downtown to meet up with friends. While pushing to get to a gathering on time, I caught a dragging toe on a raised corner of the sidewalk and face planted into the concrete. My mind didn't automatically command my body to use a quick step or a roll. It proved the old joke was true. The hardest part of falling down is the ground. A concerned Connie got me upright, and we continued our destination. We laughed about the fall as I took some heat from my good-natured friends. I politely smiled while the left hand continued shaking in my pocket. It didn't stop until a few hours after we got home. The next day, we decided to skip our planned walk and took a trolley across the bridge to Kentucky to join friends. They selected a floating restaurant on the Ohio River that features a beautiful outdoor deck with an incredible view of downtown Cincinnati. The trolley stopped short of the traffic light nearest the restaurant. Quickly exiting the trolley, since our friends had saved us a seat already, we tried to catch the sidewalk light. I I tripped again. The fall was worse this time, though. I couldn't shake it off this time. Pain stabbed at my shoulder and ribs. Angrily, I refused to get helped up to my feet. After falling 2 days in a row, Connie insisted something was wrong. I finally agreed to see a physician. The doctor checked my ribs, tested my balance, and observed my hands manipulate different exercises. He recommended I see a neurologist at the University of Cincinnati. I asked him to give me his opinion of what was wrong. He was always forward with me. He told me it could be an inner ear problem, but the falls, tremors, and results of my coordination exam indicated it might be Parkinson's disease. The neurologist appointment came and went. The diagnosis was Parkinson's. The disease was not a death sentence, but we were devastated with no cure, lots of prescriptions, and degenerative disease, a degenerative disease. That was a long one. It was terrifying to think of telling our sons I had Parkinson's. Both boys lived out of town. Kevin had moved to New York City to work, and Nate was finishing up his degree at Ohio University. We were to be together at Christmas to celebrate the holidays. Connie and I agreed that breaking the news to them in person was the best. I remember thinking, what a gift. Guess what you get for Christmas, guys? Your father is sick. It was so uplifting when the boys came home. Behind conversations about past Christmases, friends' updates, and their lives outside of Cincinnati was an aura of the unspoken. I could feel they sensed something was wrong. We knew it was time to talk. The explanation didn't take long, but it was difficult. They both knew what Parkinson's disease is serious. I only answered questions as they arose. Connie did most of the talking because I didn't want to seem too emotional about it. Soon the room became silent as we were all lost in our thoughts. They looked so sad. It felt heavy, dark, forbidding. The moment hung awkwardly until Nate lifted his eyes like an idea had just popped into his head and asked, "Okay, how long before we can start having fun with this?" I saw the twinkle in his eye, a sheepish grin by Kevin, and a look of amazement in Connie's face. My wonderful, modern, dysfunctional, close-knit family was looking for my response. They wanted to handle this crisis as they always did, with humor. It was the way that we heal relationships, settle arguments, and support each other. The answer was already on my face. I was smiling. I gave my approving nod while replying, "Now would be good." Nate rose out of his seat. He'd always been comfortable on stage. Kevin leaned forward with anticipation. Connie was already giggling at him. I sat back and waited for my comic assassination. "You know," he began, "you'll still be able to work. You could be a bartender." After a perfectly timed pause, he added, "With those tremors, you could shake the daylights out of a specialty cocktail." Kevin picked up on the whole vibe and added, "Think about this. With the way this Parkinson thing progresses, you will only get better at it." With that, the laughter broke out and the darkness disappeared. Playful insults, snarly barbs, bad puns, and dad jokes ruled. But most of all, Parkinson's did not win that day. This was written by Sherm Perkins. It would be hard to have a serious diagnosis like that, and it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. But to try to find the humor in things, I think it's a thing that you have to learn to do. I don't know. It can be fun to be practicing, especially when you've got someone that throws it back at you and you're going back and forth. It can be a fun time too. And like them, they had humor. That humor gave them the strength to go through the rough times. And we will too. I can remember my son when something was serious and he'd start laughing or joking around, and I'd say, "This is not the time." And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, "Mom, this is how I handle it." I couldn't say a word. It made so much sense. And it is. It's how we handle it. This family handled it with fun. And that took off the edge. It took off the fear. And no, they didn't want to lose their dad, but why not have the last days that you have with them to be good ones? I feel sorry for people that don't have a sense of humor, because humor can pull you out of some of the worst situations, and depression. I think give it a good day and a good thought. And where's the funny part of all of this? There is a seed of greatness in every situation. And they're showing that there's a side of fun and joking out of it too. That's for today. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.